Hi, good afternoon, and I promise you this will probably be the most different panel you'll have here. I don't know if that makes it better or worse, but hopefully it'll be interesting. And I'm going to try and cut it a little bit short. There are often questions for our guys from the audience, so I'll give you some time to ask some questions then. I'll do a very, very brief sort of setup, and then we'll just have a conversation and open up to your questions. So our Chicago CRED's a small nonprofit I started 5.5 years ago, laser focused on reducing gun violence in our hometown of Chicago. I have a lot of opinions. I'll just try and give you facts. I'll save my opinions for another time, but just facts. Chicago's about 6 times more violent than New York. It's 3 to 4 times more violent than LA. It doesn't have to be that way. People often think more police make you safer. We have as many or more police than both those cities, so we can get into that conversation, but that if more police made you safer, we would be the safest city on the planet. The violence has spread throughout the city, but is focused on 15 neighborhoods on the south and west sides that produce about 80% of the violence. And unfortunately, the profile of those shooting and being shot, it's basically the same person. It's a young black man between 18 and 24. Coming home to Chicago from DC, this felt like the crisis facing the city didn't feel like it was really being addressed. And so we just started working with the young men most at risk of shooting or being shot. My epiphany was, it shows how not smart I am, that if you want to stop shooting, you have to work with the shooters. And you have to work directly and give folks a reason to put down the guns. I would love to get rid of the guns. I'm pretty radical there, but we don't have the ability to do that. Unfortunately, one of the biggest drivers of violence in our city is retaliation. We focus a lot on what we call the clear rate, how many crimes get solved. In Roseland, which is on the far south side, which is where we started our work and where most of these guys are from, in Roseland, only about 11% of shooting and homicides get solved. So basically, you have an 89% chance of getting away from shooting someone or taking a life. And when you don't have justice in the criminal justice system, you have street justice retaliation. So we spend a lot of time talking to our guys about not retaliating and going a different way. So we'll just get into the conversation, and like I said, open up to you guys to have questions at the end. But I'll just go down the line. Ali is one of our lead life coaches. And Ali, maybe just give a little sense of what it's like to grow up in Chicago, and what does it mean to be a lead life coach? What are you trying to do every day with our young guys?
So first of all, thank you guys for inviting me here. And they got me as Kanoya Ivy. Everybody calls me Ali, so you guys... But to grow up in Chicago, it's a very different space. You know, we come from a gang culture, but first of all, we have our DNA is very strong with loyalty, and we are united in our pods and places, and we loyal to each other in such a way, for good or bad. And sometimes it's the bad that comes out, but. I think we're a blue-collar city that kind of grinds very hard, but often people from certain areas don't have the same opportunity to advance as others may have, maybe because we don't even see the possibility. I heard these two brothers up here speaking earlier, and I was thinking that it would be great for some of our young men to actually know them and to see them in a real space, and being able to touch them and feel them. Often we see success as rappers and athletes or entertainment versus some people in the tech field that we really just are not connected to at all from our area, the urban area. But being a lead life coach in Chicago for Chicago CRED has been a promising space for me just because I'm dedicated to the work. I really love and I have a deep passion for seeing these guys succeed. The only thing I ask for them is to be successful. I don't want anything other than that, not a tip or a vote or anything of that nature. It's just for them to succeed in life. So my job is not only to have a caseload myself, but I often train the life coaches under me with really identifying the barriers that these participants have that come in, and they vary from, you can imagine. Some of these young men deal with mental health issues. I heard you guys speak about that in a major way. This is a space that's not being addressed. This is why they have an issue with taking Xanax and Percocets and stuff. These are just medication. They kind of medicate themselves in that space, and then they also don't understand how to deal with emotions and anger and aggression in a way. Lastly, I would say it's for them. It's a very common space to never have a positive male role model to grow up and see themselves imitating, so they don't know kind of where they are and where they're trying to go in life. So my job is to kind of bring them in, be a role model to them, but also I identify them as young kings. I try to be an advisor to the young kings that's in our present, and then also I teach my team to do the same thing. Identify the barriers. Let's see how we're gonna overcome those barriers with each particular participant, and then be a great advisor to them and an example in real life.
We have 5 components to our program. We're constantly changing and evolving and making lots of mistakes every day. We have a street outreach team that recruits people into our program. We have clinicians in helping our young men deal with trauma and work through that. We always say that hurt people, but healed people can help to heal themselves and others. We have an education team. We've had lots of folks get high school diplomas and some in college now. And then we have a jobs team. Our goal is to move folks from the illegal economy to the legal economy. But Ali and Mr. Banks are life coaches. And we say all the time that experience is the best teacher, but it doesn't have to be your own experience. And having, as Ali said, positive, strong black men in their lives. Our young guys have always had role models. It's just maybe leading them in the wrong direction. It's never a shortage of role models, just whether it's the right ones or not. And Mr. Banks served a long time, was unfortunately locked away for a long time, came back out in 2019 and came to work with us and talk about what you try and do with our young men as a life coach. What are the lessons you're trying to instill in them?
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see everyone. My whole main thing is sitting in prison for them 26 years is a time where I reflected on what I could have did better with my life. And that's how you look at your time as you going in prison. What could I have did better? What changes could I have made? And then when you get that second win, you get that second chance, then you try to instill to other people that they don't walk them same steps that you walk. They don't make them same mistakes that you make. So I try to the best of my ability, and it's my every waking day, every moment, every second, to try to instill in them a possibility that they have a chance. That's the whole thing. They don't believe it, but you got to make them believe that they have a chance. And the choices that they're going to make in life is those critical choices is from there, even prison, or you keep on that path, then you end up dead. So we try to stop them as life coaches and try to teach them better ways in order to cope with the things that they're dealing with out there in the street. And like I said, this is an everyday, all-day job. And I wouldn't have it no other way because, once again, I got that second breath. And getting that second breath will give you a chance to not ever give up. Just like the brother said, I grew up in Inglewood, and that was the most poverty place in Chicago at the time. And growing up, I'm the 4th of 10 kids, and it's kind of hard. And then you talking about a mother who's on drugs, you talking about a lifestyle in which the only thing you can see out there is nothing but the drug game, the violent game, you know, and these things are constantly at your doorstep. So I don't want the next generation, which my generation lacked, and trying to provide a way for this generation. I want to be out here now for this generation to give them that choice and that chance and teach them a better way.
Antonio, for folks that aren't from Chicago, which very few people here are definitely not from the south and west sides of Chicago, just talk about what it was like growing up in the hundreds, and just give a little sense.
Good afternoon. In the beginning, it was like fun because I was a kid, so a lot of things I didn't experience until I started getting older. I could say stuff stopped being fun when like 12 and up. After 12, I started experiencing like death, getting shot at, being in dangerous places and stuff like that. So it wasn't fun because it was like a target on my back. Because like, dang, everywhere I go, if something happened, I can't escape it. It's like a roadblock. Every time I go somewhere, it's either shooting or something bad happen, a fight break out, something just negative. So like negative energy everywhere I went since I was 12. So I was experiencing like death, shooting, like close death. Like some of my close friends had passed away. I had family members that passed away from shooting. and I almost lost my life in shooting. Like my house has been shot up in multiple times and stuff like that. So it's like it wasn't fun after like I started growing up, because as I'm growing up and not seeing like if I'm gonna grow up type stuff. So I wouldn't say it was fun type stuff growing up in Chicago until like I say the earliest ages, because at the earlier ages the police was more active with you, like they'll pull over, stop. Like when I was 6 years old, I used to see police standing outside playing basketball or like football or passing out candy. But as I got old, I stopped seeing less and less of that and just more negativity. So I said it stopped being fun around like 12, 13.
How did you hear about our program?
I heard about the program on the streets. I heard a lot of like they got outreach workers that drive through the neighborhoods, the 12 neighborhoods that's more dangerous, and I'm in one of the neighborhoods, so they'll drive through in the summer, and then they'll see us and hop out like, oh, join the CRED program to reduce gun violence. At the beginning, I wasn't listening, like, nah, I ain't finna go there. Like I was 18 and 17, so when I was looking at them come and keep pulling up, I'm like, at that age, I wasn't thinking I was gonna live past 21, so I didn't see no future. So as they keep coming, I'm like, man, I'm not finna go there, because there ain't no future for me. So why would I go somewhere and give it a try if I'm not finna have no future?
And our violence, unfortunately, is every city is different. It's hyper local. This is not South Side versus West Side. This is not white versus black. This is this block versus this block. So when you came into our site at 95th, the reality is we call it the opposition. We had folks in that site who you had been into it with before. And what's that like to walk into a site and see folks that on the street you might be trying to take each other's life? And how have you worked through those issues?
First, I was in denial, like how when they were first trying to come get me in the program. When they got me in there and then they said who was gonna be in the program, I was real in denial, like, nah, I'm not finna be in here. I kept like they was like talking to me like, no, like don't let that like stop you. So I had Banks and Ali and them telling me like you won't want no person like to stop your chances in life. So they had I was so in denial because so many like people was right there. I'm like, nah, I'm not finna be in here. So they had to pull me to the back because I was so in denial and sit me down and had to realize like the opportunity I was missing. Like if you gonna let these people stop you from getting in their hair, well, what else you'll let them stop you from getting it? That mean they'll be at a job somewhere that you're like, you'll let them stop you from getting a job. That mean they'll be somewhere else where it's an opportunity for you to change your life. That mean you'll let them stop you change your life. And I had to think like, nah, I can't let them do that. Like that's basically like letting somebody power me. So I had just like, let me force myself to work around these people.
We sort of have three generations of guys here. And Banks, if you can talk about sort of how the gang structure's changed over time, and I never want to glorize or glamorize the gang structure in the past, but things have definitely changed and become more chaotic. So when you were coming up, talk about that structure now and the difference you've seen between then and what it's like now.
Yeah, it's totally different. I mean, it's like the moon and the sun right now, because what you got in my day and time, you have more structure. It was accountability. The things that's going on now in Chicago wouldn't be going on because it's hierarchy. It's people who that you got to talk to and people who you got to kind of get your decisions from and make your decisions. So right now, it's going out there is kind of wild and out of control now. There's no structure, but yet they still calling themselves this. They still claiming these names out there, but they don't want to go out the structure part of it. So you got people coming out of prison who used to be somebody and they don't want to listen to them now, who used to have some rank and position, but they don't want to listen now because when everybody was taken away from the street, that left the street unstructured, and then the kids that's growing up now, they're growing up without no structure. So only structure you will really have is when you come to prison. Now, as they come in prison, then they got to fall in line. But then when they get out of prison, then they go back to what they used to do and how they used to talk and how they walk out there. But the structure from now to then is totally different, man. And we right now ain't really trying to really structure them to the gang mentality. We trying to structure them to a CRED mentality and trying to get their understanding of life to be formed where they can be their own men now. So.
And Ali, you unfortunately served 8 years, and talk about what that was like and how you come out and how you sort of dedicated your life to giving back to the community now.
So at 17 years old, I went to prison for taking the life of a gentleman by the name of Larry Sterling. And when I reflect on it, it was a time when I basically was dealing with a lot of emotions. I was very, I wasn't, when I think about it now, I know, and I'm dealing with these young men, I know that I hadn't been able to process what I was going through. So I really identified my victim somewhat like it was a position he was in. He shouldn't have died, and his life was taken by me because of something that when I reflect on my cognitive behavior skills, I learned that I picked up a trait from my father, who actually, because his drug abuse robbed my mother at a young age. He robbed my mother when I was young. And I had this thing where I said, I ain't gonna never let nobody take money from me. So this gentleman owed me some money, and my get back was him losing his life. On the day of my sentencing, I spoke to his family. I was able to turn around and speak to his family, and I told his family that I would when I came out of prison, I would dedicate my life to making sure nobody kind of did the same thing I did, and actually made a different change. In the 8 years that I was in prison, I sort of had to adapt to the system that was actually going on. So I didn't really remember it until I was almost on my way home, probably about 2 years from coming home from prison. Coming home, I kind of started to really see things in a different light. And I was saying every week, every Wednesday, it was a busload of men coming to prison, and it was like clockwork. And it was, I would say, 90%, 85 to 90% young black men. And I said, man, I can't go out with the same mentality I had that brought me in here. And not only that, I can't waste my time in the life that was taken by doing the same thing or just going out fending for myself. So when I came out of prison, I dedicated myself to this work, and I've been doing it ever since. I see these young brothers trying their best to make it, but the reality is a lot of them, once again, dealing with trauma. I seen we did this march in D.C. where they were saying, the shooting victims of a school, it was 17. It was a mass shooting, and 17 students was killed. And we got participants that had 17 friends killed at different times. And just imagine being traumatized every day. Every month you lose a friend. It's different from losing all 17 at one time. And then you knowing or you feeling like you're on that chopping block, right? So, that's why we really do this work. I think Arne Duncan, he speaks about, 15 neighborhoods, but Chicago has 77 neighborhoods. 15 neighborhoods are composed of this 80% of the gun violence in Chicago. We spent a ton of money on other things in Chicago. We got a Lincoln Yard project that's a $6 billion project. We got a police academy that's $900 million. The budget for gun violence for programs is less than $2 million. That's the history of Chicago. We know it's a problem, but it seems like our youth, our children have been pushed to the side, or they not really looked at as important enough. I look at it and I'm like, okay, this reminds me if it was a house, the attic or the closet space. You only paint it when you really don't pay attention to the cobwebs in the attic or clean in the attic unless it's really, something you feel like doing it. We're not a priority. And that's what happens with our young people. No one is telling them about the tech world or being a pilot or being a fireman or stuff that, they don't see these people that look like them. So it's very hard for them to think about becoming someone in that space.
Yeah, well, we say that budgets aren't numbers, they reflect our values. And in Chicago last year, we spent more than twice as much on police misconduct settlements than we did on violence prevention programs. So just think about that mentality for the city. And Antonio, for folks, again, we never want to blow through the hard stuff, so the issue of trauma. Talk about at what age you started losing friends to gun violence, and talk about at what age you started to carry a gun to protect yourself.
The first age I experienced death was 10, and I had lost an older friend that used to come play basketball with me. He was like 16, 17, but he had died like 2 blocks away from where I lived from, and I was 10. So when my mom and them told me, it was like, it's like the word like love, like you don't know what love is, but you know what it is at a younger age, but you never felt it. So when I'm like at 10, I'm like, nah, didn't really feel death until 14 when I lost my cousin. She was a girl. She had got killed by another girl and gun violence. Then like 2 months later after that, I had lost my cousin. And then after that, it was just like I was losing a person every year. And then like the beginning of 2015, I had lost a close friend that used to be like, we used to play basketball and used to shoot dice together and stuff like that. He had passed away. And then that's when it turned left. Like that's when I'm like, he had passed away trying to fight. So when he tried to fight, somebody had started shooting out the crowd. He had ended up passing away. Then we ended up finding about on this app that's called, on Twitter, called Spot News. So like the police ain't tell us, or like the family ain't tell us. We ended up finding that out on the Spot News app because we was looking like what happened to him because he never came back to the house. We ended up looking on the app and they ended up having a picture of his body with the white sheet over there. But we knew it was him because of the shoes, because we just came from the mall. So we knew what type. He had these boots that nobody else had on. So we like, when we saw the shoes, it was like, we knew that was him. And then that's when we just started telling his family. It was kind of hard because we was 14, 15, and we got to tell his family that he was just shot and killed type stuff. So it was kind of hard from us. After that, that's when I started trying to protect myself, like start having a gun, trying to find out how to get one, or whatever case may be. And then that later on that year, they had, like before the summer had started, had got my house shot up 16 times while I was in it. I was actually woke during the time when they were shooting. It was like around like 11 o'clock. My whole family was woke actually when they shot up the crib. And then I started just experiencing little stuff after that. Then the next year on the same day they shot up my house, they came back and shot it again, a number like 17 times. And then it was like just little stuff after that. In like 2017, I ended up losing a brother figure that was my sister's boyfriend outside of my house. Somebody came by looking for somebody else, mistaken identity, and then shot up. It was a crowd of friends. They just got back from the beach. Actually, they just got back from the beach. It was finna go on my house, and then somebody came and shot, and then he actually got hit in the head. And another friend of mine got shot in the leg with a rifle. He ended up surviving, and then my sister boyfriend, he was fighting for his life from July all the way to November. So me seeing him in the hospital and the way he was, it was like angry, like dang, like I knew it wasn't meant for him. Like he was one of the people out of everybody that I knew like it wasn't meant for him. So that's when I started taking my anger and aggression, I started going downhill from there. I was really at senior year of high school, really finna drop out of school because I was so focused on that. It was like traumatizing because it was like, dang, if he just, because all my friends that passed away never seen 21. So like he was the first one that just turned 21. Like one of my friends that got out of jail in 2015, he got killed with his girlfriend. His birthday was 3 days before he turned 21. So me seeing this like age, like nobody get past this age, it was like me thinking like, dang, why would I think about a future if I know I'm not even gonna get past 21? So me knowing that I'm like, when he had got killed, I'm like, dang, like this is real. Like ain't none of my friends getting past 21. So I'm like starting to think like it ain't no destined for me until like this year when I got past 21, because I'm actually 22 now. I just turned 22 March 9th. So when I had turned 21, it was kind of hard for me because it was like a dark place. Like I don't know how long it was like a TikTok, like a time. Like I don't know how long I'm gonna have. And then that's when Craig was trying to give me the most. So I had seen when Craig was trying to get me, I'm like, let me just go ahead and go to Craig. This may be my way out. But when I was going through all that trauma, it was like a lot of anger because I was seeing a lot of stuff. I was into a lot of stuff that was in the meanwhile of going through them phases of my losing my friends. I was getting shot at. I was having to get out, wake up, go to school in the morning. Even though I'm living in the same house that the people shot up, I got to wake up, go outside every day and like think like I might not make it home type stuff. So I had forced myself to graduate because my mama got one of them old souls, you know. You don't graduate, it was like I wasn't gonna have no home. So I had to graduate to have somewhere to sleep. So I pushed myself even though knowing like it was a target on my back going outside every day. And pushed myself. I was slipping actually like the beginning of the year. I used to tell my mom I was going to school and I wasn't even going to school. I would go to my friend's house because I was so traumatized over the thing like what I'm finna finish school for, like what I'm finna get a diploma for if I'm not going to even be able to use it or if I'm not going to be able to see the success I'm going to be able to get out of it. So when the teachers told my mama that I was finna fail, she kind of got on me. So I had to do everything fast to make up because I was actually lying to my mama because I'm like, I'm going to school. Then I'm not going to school. Then she look up the attendance record all. What the heck you supposed to been at school? I'm like, and I can't explain why I wasn't at school. So I'm like, dang, now I got to make up for all the stuff. So I had to hurry up and finish. But some of the teachers liked me in school. So they had helped me. So I had to stay overtime. I also had a job at the time too. So it was like a balance. Then I had to drop my jobs because I was really focused on just going to work. I had a job at McDonald's and that wasn't safe either because I was down there on the low end. And then when I went down there, I was experiencing different shootings and stuff like that. So it was because when I went down there, it was like a different environment. See me, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm in Roseland. That maybe just be the area. That just might be the problem. Now I went down there and started experiencing like people still getting shot. Like when I was at McDonald's, somebody actually got shot in the stove, like in the McDonald's. I'm like, dang, it ain't nowhere. Like so now it's like still kind of like, dang, I'm trying to do the right thing. I got a job, still going to school, but I'm still around this negative energy. So I just said, forget it. I just stopped going to work. When I graduated, I had the summer, so I'm like, ain't nothing else for me to do but be outside. So I was just experiencing a lot of stuff, but when I came to Craig, it had changed my mind of thinking, because they had showed me like that I had a future. You know what I'm saying? Like they gave me hope. Banks and Ali and them talked to me, and sat down and said like, you know, how much power I got. You know what I'm saying? How much what I could do, and instead of being out here, I could be doing something else. I know how to work on cars. And Ali like, why you just don't work on cars? I'm like, I can't go outside because I live right there, and if I go outside and I work on cars, it's a chance of me getting shot at or whatever the case may be. So I can't work on cars like that. So I'll be trying to find spots to like work on cars, or like I have a car myself, so I have to go find a spot, go to my cousin's house all the way out somewhere that nobody knows just to work on my car type stuff.
Do one more question each, and then we'll open it up. Ali, if you just see how far he's come, all the other guys are working with, how does it make you feel?
First, man, every time I hear him talk, it's amazing because you know he's jolly. He's a very kind brother, a leader. But you know, somebody tried to kill him a couple months ago. Like this is not, you know, years ago. If he goes to Chicago, you know, go back to his house, there's people looking to kill him right now. And it's not, so case in point, we did a talk in Jackson, probably about, I think, January. Since that time, 2 of our participants was murdered from January to, I think, last month. One was, I think, was 24, the other one 17. We deal with a specific group, like Arne said, someone who's considered a target or a shooter. And these are people, human beings that for whatever reason, we're trying to go grab them and wrap our arms around them and let them know they loved and cared for. But at the end of the day, some of those people that's trying to hurt them, they may not have the same hug, or, they may not be somebody we reached out to or got to yet. So, you looking at Antonio today, and it's not uncommon for next year for you to ask where Antonio at, and it may not be the same conversation. So that's just the reality.
And so many challenges in our work. One of the biggest challenges is folks work to change and to transform, and we have the joy of seeing it every day. We're still working and living in war zones. And as Mr. Banks does his work every single day to save the lives of our young men, he lost his son to gun violence last June. And given who he is and given his reputation and given his authority on the streets, it'd be very easy for him to inflict that pain on the shooter's family, and just walk through what it was like to lose your son and dealing with that grief and that loss, and still to keep your focus on living what you're trying to live every day with us.
This question comes to me all the time about the loss of my son to gang violence. It's one of those things I've never faced or accepted yet. I'm still suppressing it. I'm still moving on, keeping myself busy, keep doing the work so I don't have to really sit down and really focus up on my son and the loss that he's no longer here. How I'm dealing with it, even from the street perspective, is that what I do is I said to myself is that I got to learn, if I'm telling these youngsters to stop shooting and killing one another, if I'm telling these youngsters to don't use revenge as the tool, put down a gun, then I got to be the example of that same talk. So when this has happened to me, I got to show them by my own example that we ain't gonna do no revenge, ain't gonna be no retaliation, that we gonna look. And I actually, and as sad as it may seem, something I didn't even talk to his mother about, is that the guys who shot him, the incidents that he was in, I would like for them to be in CRED program so we can change their life, so we can help them to see a better way, so we can teach them how to put the guns down and stop this conflict that y'all having. So this is where I'm at, because this is where I got to teach, and this is what I got to preach, and this is what I got to be example of to these youth that's following our example. Being a life coach is trying to direct their lives and trying to make them, teach them to overcome the trauma and give them ways, strategies, and different ways in order to be better, productive citizens out there in the world. So we got to show them through these examples right here. And you always think of life coaches. I want you to think of life coaches as you do trainers. We got to identify each individual with his own strategy, his own plan, his own obstacles, the things that he's faced with, and how he can overcome these things right here. And everyone is different. Antonio is different from the next person that's on my caseload, and I got to deal with each case differently. So this is how you got to think about life coaches. We got to set goals and we got to overcome obstacles for each individual. So on this toe right here, so everybody knew who my son was in Chicago, everybody knew who I was, and everybody sitting back and was waiting. What's the next move? There is no next move. There's forgiveness. There's overlooking. There's a time where I can say that, hey, again, where these guys at so I can go talk to them and tell them to come into the program. This is where I'm at with it.
And we'll open up to the audience. I'll just say this is it's the most humbling work I've ever done, and just the lessons. But I hope you guys start to understand sort of who the heroes are. And you could look at these gentlemen and think they're the villains for whatever they may have done in the past, but we can't win this fight without them. And unfortunately, Mr. Banks is not the only staff member to have lost a child working with us, and have every single one of them say, if the people who shot my son or daughter came to us, I'd help mentor them. I can't begin to say I would do that if I lost my son or daughter. And so these are just extraordinary men and role models. We got a few minutes left. Let's open up any questions you might have. We have a mic here.
Hi, my name is Chris Winters. I am from Reading, Pennsylvania. I'm with the Boys and Girls Club there. We are seeing a rapid increase in violence, shooting violence among young men, both Latino and African American. But one of the things that's alarming us, and I don't know if you guys are dealing with this in Chicago, but I'd love to hear how you're dealing with it, is we're seeing a rapid use of social media, taking pictures of these young men after they're killed. We just had one who was literally pushed out of a vehicle, was shot in his vehicle, killed, and pushed out in a busy afternoon street. How do you combat that? How do you reach out to the members of your organization or that are coming in to deal with that kind of effect? Because quite honestly, I'm not sure any of us right now have any answers.
So real quick, Antonio might not even know this, but we have a page called the Shot Podcast, which is it's a podcast, but it doesn't look like us, right? It's just a podcast page. And whatever, we always request them as friends and we follow them. And they kind of forget we follow them. So we definitely see all the stuff that they start to put up. So I know some of us have personal lives, like, man, that's our personal business. If you got to create a fake page, maybe some kind of whatever page, and then start to add those guys and go look on it, because that's basically the new journal. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and then also Clubhouse. They just start talking freely. I definitely go on there, go listen to conversations, and trying my best to catch them doing something, saying something. I've done it many times, so that's where we at with that.
So with the social media stuff, it's kind of hard because it's like basically like they got your phone number, so it's like a direct thing. So I had to block like literally everybody that I say that's pertained, because I used to get calls like 6 a.m, wake me out my sleep and stuff like that, just to aggravate me, just to get me angst up and stuff like that. So it was kind of hard for me at first. It was like, in the beginning, it was like a game, because it was like, okay, y'all on the social media. Then it started getting out of hand. Like, okay, now y'all disturbing my sleep or stuff like that. Call on my phone all weird times. So I had to block a lot of people, because there was so many people like they used to just call my phone weird times. Like, what did you call my phone at 5 o'clock in the morning for? Like, what? Don't you supposed to be asleep or something? So I used to so after once one of them did that, I just started blocking literally everybody, because I ain't want that no more. Because it was kind of hard. Because it's kind of like hard if you seeing somebody like antagonize you. If you don't see it, then you wouldn't worry about it. But instead of you seeing it, you open up your phone and you see your name, like, oh my God, now you gotta go through it again and all this other stuff. So it was better just to block them, so I wouldn't be able to see nothing, or they wouldn't see what's going on in my life.
So just to be clear, what he's saying is that his ops follow him. So he started to block his ops. That's really something that's a common thing. Even though they enemies of each other, they start to follow each other. So they send threats on Instagram and Twitter and all stuff like that. So.
Yeah, no problem. My name is Shannon. I'm actually I taught in Roseland, and I'm from the West Side, so very familiar, I guess, with all of this. But my question is, I'm in education. My work is steeped in school redesign, because I just don't believe that schools are serving kids the way that they should. And maybe this is for you, Antonio, but if you could think about your educational experience, what is it, your elementary school or high school, if you could reimagine school to really serve you better and your peers, to supplement and support the work to reduce gun violence, like, what would that look like outside of providing you a Chromebook, a textbook, and saying, write this paper, right? Like, what else would make students want to go and thrive at school and not just in the streets?
It's like, okay, like elementary school, I feel like it's needed, because you gotta learn the basic learning. But then when you get to high school, it's like a lot of kids, so a lot of kids not getting the attention that they need. So it's like a lot of kids get to falling off. So I feel like high school should be like a economical school type stuff, like where you learn about credit and real stuff that you gonna face to the world. Cause I'm not using YB+2 right now. I'm not using none of that right now. So it's like I got like they didn't teach me about credit or like buying a house or getting loans from or try to open my own business. So it's like when they just teach me this basic learning and then you just throw me out there to the real wolves, like, oh, now I don't know about credit, I don't know about how to open my own business, I don't know how to go on my own to even get my own like medical card, like stuff like that they like when you get out of high school that you need to know, cause like if your parents pass away, then you really don't got nobody, because people really be assessing on their parents type stuff. Like their parents be doing a lot of the like medical, the ID portion and driver license, trying to help you do all that. But if the school need to start with that first, with like the economical stuff like that, because without that, like when they get out of school, then it's like they just go to the regular basic format, like, oh, I'm gonna work at McDonald's, or I'm gonna work somewhere that's easy instead of like learning how to work somewhere that's like dealing with the technical issues or stuff like that that's beyond that we can even see.
I apologize, we have to wrap. Thank you so much for spending time with us today. Thank you.